7. Let's talk to the Executive Director of the National Inspectorate, School Inspectorate Authority, or Inspector General of Schools. That's like the title now. IGS. Dr. Hilda Pedu. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Yourself?
I'm brilliant. So I think the last time we spoke, you were in the process of becoming an authority, or I'm not sure. So now it's a full authority. What's the difference between being a National Schools Inspectorate Authority and an Inspectorate Board?
Thank you. So as an Inspectorate Board, we had all the mandates that we have now. Like we didn't have many of the enforcement powers that the new law, the Education Regulators Bodies Act 1025 2020 gives us now.
Okay.
So that's the difference between the authority and the board.
So it's just a question of power. So the functions don't necessarily change.
The functions, only one new function has been added as an authority, which is the registration and licensing of all schools. But the previous, at 778, the mandates in there are all enshrined in the new.
So prior to the new law, you didn't have to register and license a school?
Well, it was there, but it wasn't implicit. And it was actually being done by GS, which had a conflict in itself, proprietary and regulator at the same time. And so the law saw it fit to tease it out.
So this is schools at all levels?
Pre-tertiary schools from kindergarten to SHS, public and private.
Pre-tertiary, KG to SHS, private and public?
Yes.
Have to be registered?
Yes. Technical vocational institutions as well.
Wow. So talk to me about how the school should register. How does the registration go?
So for registration, currently we have digitized the approach to registration. Is online at our website. You just complete a form, and then inspectors will come to your school and inspect your facilities to ensure that you have adequate facilities for the number of students you have in the school. And then if you meet the standard, which is a 4-point rating scale, then we'll give you a certificate that says that you can operate for a year. It's renewable annually. I'm
sure the standards are different for the different levels. So, for example, a KG has a certain standard, primary school has a different standard, and that type of thing.
Yes. So we have what we call descriptors. So we look at the descriptors per the level of school. So KG will have different descriptors, basic school will have different descriptors, and based on that, we give you the rating of outstanding, good, satisfactory, or unsatisfactory.
Okay. So once I am satisfactory, I can get a license.
So actually, it's good that you have satisfactory is the basic standard you need to have to be able to operate as a school in Ghana. So anything below satisfactory, you shouldn't be in operation at all. But unfortunately, about 70% of our schools are in the unsatisfactory category, which is where.
Are you serious?
Which is yes, because nobody was looking in there.
70% of our schools are below satisfactory or unsatisfactory in terms of the.
70% of the schools that we've inspected so far.
You've inspected so far?
Yes, have fallen under the unsatisfactory. So when you're unsatisfactory, we'll put you in a category called a category of concern, where we'll give you regular monitoring and evaluation to ensure that you improve standards.
Give me an example of what a school that is satisfactory should have.
Okay, so a school that is satisfactory should have we do what we call lesson observation. We sit in the lesson and see how the 3 core subjects are being taught: English, Maths, and Science, and observe the teaching of it. Do you have adequate teachers who are trained and equipped with the right skills to be able to do that? We also will look at facilities. So do you have a library? Do you have a computer lab? Do you have enough infrastructure, tables, chairs, etc.? We look at all these facilities and we rate them on our scale as we are looking at it. So when we combine all that data, we then give you a score for it. So if you are satisfactory, then it means on a scale of about 1 to 10, you are about 4 or between 4 and 5. So you can improve with the recommendations that we give you. So there's hope that you can improve.
So if a school is unsatisfactory, what happens? Do they have to be closed down immediately?
No, if a school is unsatisfactory, we'll give what we call recommendations of things that needs to be fixed. And then we put a monitoring and evaluation around such a school to help you improve. We give a timeline. And then we keep coming to ensure that you improve. Most schools want to improve, and that's what is encouraging about this. So the moment we give them the recommendations, they are willing to take it on and improve what they need to improve. Some write to us, give us regular updates without us even going to them to seek the updates.
Is there a different standard for rural versus urban schools?
No, that standard is the same for every school in Ghana.
I was watching TV yesterday where in the OT region, a school had a rainstorm remove its roof, and JHS 1 to JHS 3 were literally being taught under trees. Now, when the NaSIA sees such a thing, what do you do?
So when NaSIA sees such a thing, we panel our inspectors to go on the ground to assess what is going on there. Now, in this case, it's an infrastructural issue. So you engage the school leadership. If it's a public school, you engage GES leadership on the ground to ensure that you give timelines for when things should be done or things to be fixed, and they go by it and fix it. In the past, we should also bear in mind that until about a year and a half ago, NaSIA didn't have that type of mandate to go around and ensure that things are being done. But now that we are here, we are ensuring that we follow up, we make phone calls, we meet with the right people and ensure that these things are taken care of so that our children are learning in a safe environment.
Is this the best time to come up with this law? I'm asking because 2020 has been a tough year for schools. I remember when the schools were closed, a lot of school proprietors were asking media, what can government do for us? We can't pay our staff, we don't have money. Only for National Schools Inspectorate Authority to come and say, well, you have to even come and register. If you don't have a certain standard, we'll even close you down. It's like, this is the worst time to be doing such a thing, is it not?
So we are not closing any school down. I would like to put that on record. If anything at all, our registration is to say we want to recognize you as a school in the system. We want to be sure that you are there doing what you are set up to do. So it's not to punish any school. There are schools that have come up that said, okay, we can register, but we cannot pay. And we've said, okay, that's fine. This year, we are focusing on more of awareness creation of the law that is it, because most people do not even know we exist. So we are not chasing after schools to pay us anything. There are schools that we've also helped during these times to ensure that they get the right resources from government. There were schools that needed letters from us to get to NBSSI. We did that. There are schools that needed introduction letters to go to the Ministry of Finance. We've done that. So we're also in our own small way helping schools.
So you're saying there are advantages of registration?
Yes. There are key advantages of registration. One, most schools do not have what external bodies looking into their activities. We become that external body. We come there in a form of support. We are not there to punish. We just point things out that needs to be fixed because we all want, the whole goal of NaSIA is to ensure that children are learning in a safe environment and that learning outcomes are being attained in these schools. So for that, when you register with us and we send our inspectors out on a regular basis to look at what you are doing, is to help your school to improve. It's not to penalize or punish a school. So
if my school is not registered by close of the year, what happens to my school?
So if your school is not registered by close of year, this law came into being in August 2020, August 26, 2020. So the law said within 6 months you should be registered with the authority. We have given a long duration because we know COVID is here and there are so many things that the schools have been through. We are hoping that every school will register by end of year. It's not so much about the money. If schools cannot afford to pay the registration fee, they should contact us. There are schools that have registered, having paid, and they said they can't pay until end of year, and we are fine with that. So it's not so much about the money at this point.
What about the renewal of certificates? I'm told if you register, you have to renew.
Yes, you have to renew. Annual renewal, yes.
Hey.
So 3 months to the, just like any other certificate that you take, licensing for any other purposes, you have to renew every year. Now, if you renew, we come to the school, we will come to inspect the school, take the data. So there's longitudinal collection of data, the data we took before. Has there been any improvement? The recommendations that were given, have you worked on them? So it gives us the opportunity to also help the schools improve and be able to go there as often as we need to.
Interesting. We understand NaSIA has some new policies to monitor and improve school learning outcomes in Ghana. Can you tell us about that?
So the new policies, we also have a self-evaluation option, which is available on our website. So schools can just go there and enter the data themselves on where they think they stand and what they need to improve. And every now and then we send our inspectors out there to also help support them in areas that they need improvement. So all these are going to be at the fingertips of school owners to be able to use, and we also have a resource pack on our website for various things that school owners will need to do to manage their schools.
In the past few months, there have been, I won't call them conflicts, disagreements between PTAs and schools over school fees, how to charge for online programs and things. Is this within your remit at all in resolving?
Yes, and we've had a lot of what we call mediation meetings between PTAs and school owners to try to meet in the middle somewhere. And in those mediation meetings, we've been able to maybe get school owners to reduce the fees by a percentage for schools, or sometimes just give a long-term plan for how parents can pay for these institutions. But we by no means as government interfere in the setting up of school fees by these private institutions. We just come in when they can't agree on a common ground on how to move forward, and then we mediate, and that's what we've been doing.
A couple of more questions. In terms of adherence to COVID protocols and management of cases in schools, because again, schools were opened because the president assured that we would make sure that the schools adhere to a certain level of COVID-19. Is that something the NaSIA has been engaged in? How have you been managing that?
Yes, so we've been around the country, sometimes by receiving reports. Example was the school in Akosombo, where on the ground to help them manage the cases that they had received. We issued recommendations on what they need to do, and gladly they implemented the recommendations of decongesting and running a shift system. So there are so many other schools that we've been to. Some schools we've gone and seen that the kids were not wearing their masks, or they didn't have masks, and we informed the right people or the right authorities to ensure that that is taken care of. So we've been on the ground to quite a number of schools to ensure that there's compliance. There's
a comment here for you. Good morning, Bernard. Please ask IGS to explain why my kid's tiny school was listed for a fixed fee, which is the same as that for a much larger, well-resourced school. The person goes on, I witnessed the inspectors being very adversarial and confrontational with our headmistress, who has single-handedly built up this small private school. It all seemed about the money. This is a comment from a listener. As in, small school, big school, same fee. Is that correct?
That is correct currently. Actually, it's one of the policy lines for our review. We are thinking of adopting the system that is seems to be prevalent elsewhere in other jurisdictions, where you pay a registration fee per the number enrolled. So if you're a smaller school, then you get to pay smaller. If you're a bigger school, you get to pay bigger. That is something that we are also in discussion with the current Minister of Education, Dr. Bichum, about to see how we implement that. So I'd like the person writing to know that we are looking at this, and in due course.
The person also said your officials were very adversarial with the school.
Because, Bernard, most school owners have been on their own for about 30 plus years. They've never had any interaction with government as to how they do their business. And suddenly we are there and we say, okay, this is the right thing to do. You need to go by the law. Most people will not be happy. We expect that. But we are trying as much as possible to build relationships with them and to also ensure that the right things are being done.
Hey, I do have a quick one for you about the notice that I've heard you. I'm sure you've heard us reading on behalf of NaSIA, and you mentioned like music schools, etc. Now there are some people who have, let's say, dance academies. They teach music lessons, etc. How do these regulations affect them? And you also say they need to register with you, even if it's something, maybe an extracurricular center or something like that. So how does that work?
Yes, so we put those in the category called specialized schools, because they all have special things that they are doing. And so long as it's pre-tertiary, it's not tertiary, you're supposed to be registered with that. If it's tertiary, then you're supposed to be registered with the GTEC, which used to be NCT.
What if it covers a range of ages, from kids to adults?
So we've encountered a few of those issues. So we separated. We said up to this level you should be registered with us. From that level to that level, it appears to be tertiary. You should be registered with GTEC.
So you have to do both.
You have to do both because you have different population in the same school.
I see.
Because we do not regulate tertiary. The law doesn't allow us to do that. Neither does the law, Education Regulators Bodies Act 1025 allow GTEC to regulate pre-tertiary. So you need to separate it. And we've had a few schools where we needed to do the separation to be able to register.
Finally, how can people contact the authority?
So people can contact the authority through its phone numbers: 0302 782318, 0545 732 688, email info@nasia.gov.gh, and on our social media handles, NaSIA.gh.
Thank you, Dr. Hilda Pedu, Executive Director, Inspectorate, and Inspector General, IGS. Almost like IGP.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big post. It's a big woman. 97.3 Citi FM, 923.